IVM. A filmmaker, screenwriter, a feminist, and a mother. She performs all these roles with utmost ease. She is a director who's portrayed powerful women and stereotypes in the web series 4 More Shots Please. She brought maths, motherhood, and genius magic together in a blockbuster movie. She is the co-writer and director of the movie Shakuntala Devi. Smashing stereotypes and depicting characters with humanism and their flaws, her work behind the scenes surely deserves an applause. I can totally imagine her saying, lights, roll sound, roll camera, roll out patriarchy, and roll action. Joining me today is the director of the biopic Shakuntala Devi, filmmaker Anu Menon. Hi Anu, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good considering the times we live in, and I'm really happy to talk to you.
Thank you for joining us today, and a huge congratulations for the movie. It's doing really well, and it's been a personal favorite for my son and me. We've totally enjoyed watching the movie together. So thank you for gifting us this lovely movie. For the audience, the listeners that have just joined in, this is Almas, your host and host, Al, and this is your show Beyond Cliche, a show where we bring in guests who really smashed and broken stereotypes and move beyond cliche. I am a speaker, author, coach, change maker, and I'm also running a campaign where I'm asking a leading diaper company to include the father's image on the diaper wrapper to really change the narrative that it's only mothers that need to change diapers. If you believe in this cause, please go to the link www.change.org/papapampers2. Talking about parenting and breaking the norms, I think Anu in her movie has done a fab job in really depicting Shakuntala Devi as the character, the magnanimous character that she is, and we're going to talk about it. Anu, before we talk about the movie, I sort of want to know more about your journey as a filmmaker. So today in the studio, I have a film director and screenwriter who's directed movies such as London, Paris, New York, Waiting, the famous web series 4 More Shots Please, and of course Shakuntala Devi and much more. So your journey as a filmmaker, and normally they say women filmmaker. A filmmaker is a filmmaker, So this whole tag of women filmmaker, if you can tell us your journey and the stereotypes that you faced along the way.
I mean, in terms of how I got into filmmaking I don't know when I thought I would do. I mean, I would what you'd call a late bloomer. I went to film school after I turned 30. I was in advertising and I thought I had a pretty good career. I was, I've lived across, many countries. I was living in Singapore and I was traveling the world. And yet somehow I felt that this was not the end and this is not, I wanted to spend the rest of my life. I was lucky enough to have these opportunities. My husband, I was married really young. And yet we waited for 10 years to have a kid. We kind of chose our career paths and did these kind of, he traveled the world based in Paris. I traveled the world based in Singapore. And it was a bit of I think there was a lot of room to figure like who we are. And so I went to do a short course in New York. And then that's when I kind of felt like, I wanted to go and see if there was a filmmaker in me. I didn't know if, I knew how to tell these stories or I had the talent or I had the aptitude. And I wanted to study. I felt like, I think when you go to university, at 17, I think you just go with the flow. I really didn't feel I had learned, skills or I just wanted to immerse into some sort of education. And that's why I went to film school. And so it was a big deal, when you're turning 30, everyone's buying houses and having kids. And
and you sort of woken up and said, I want to know what I really want to do. And maybe this is what I want to do.
Yeah. So I kind of like blew up all our savings, both mine and my husband's. And I didn't know like what to do in Paris, because though based in Paris, he was always traveling. I didn't speak French. So I chose London to be based, and then join, London Film School. So that's how, it was crazy. I mean, and I remember, just before I was joining film school, having these multiple offers from different companies, and then saying, no, you know what, I'm not going to make more money. I'm just going to go spend everything we've saved to maybe find a skill, learn a skill that I don't know whether I have or anything is going to come of it. So yeah, I think I don't think it was not just me who was brave. I think, I had a partner who, kind of supported me, and even my parents didn't say, what the hell are you doing? So it was weird, like how a lot of people supported me around me. So yeah, that's how it started. I went to film school, and when I left film school, I was like, by then my husband had moved to London, and I was like, okay, I also want to have a baby. So I had finished film school. I had a graduation film, which actually did really well. Check it out. It's called Ravi Goes to School. And I made like multiple films, in film school. People usually made one graduation film. And because I was this over enthusiastic person, I made two. And so I got a distinction, and that was great, because I don't think when I went to BITS Pilani, there was any sort of achievement. That I just about made up my way out. And here I was, but even then, I don't think what is ahead of you, or how to go about it. So yeah, I left film school, with a distinction, and there was this group called Trailblazers, and I was one of them. But I was like, I went and got pregnant. It was a conscious decision. It was like, I felt like, what, I wanted to have a baby. I had a film degree. I had changed my whole career, but I knew that if I don't have a baby now, I don't know, like I felt like this was the time, and I got pregnant. So I started my film career, with a bump in my. And the first time I went to India to meet filmmakers with a script in hand, I was 6 months pregnant.
Wow.
And so I feel like, and so that's why, the themes of motherhood and all of them resonate with me, because I went into the world, like without ever, I don't think I tried to cover my bump when I went to these meetings. And I don't know where that sort of lack of self-awareness came from, where that, because I think I didn't know the rules of the game at that time. Because, of course there was, I'd been in advertising, but I'd been in advertising as a young person, 20 something, that invincibility that you have. So then I go to film school, and then I come into this world. So I went, and, people met me, and they talked to me, they read my script, and it was really interesting, because I was not like, I'm sure I don't know what they must have thought. They must have thought that this crazy woman has come. It's not like anyone greenlit my film at that time, but there was a lot of interest. And based on those meetings, just after my daughter was born, a film did get greenlit from there. So yeah, that's kind of, my journey.
That's brave. I would say that is really brave.
And I did. I did bring a 6-month-old daughter to Mumbai to make that film. But then, unfortunately, there was a world economic crisis, and a lot of films fell through, and that fell through too. And like everybody in Bollywood, like I have my sob story about how, the things that didn't happen. And I think, but I was, I don't think, like somehow I have always had films and motherhood together. So, which is why I suppose when I, met Shakuntala Devi's daughter, I totally got it immediately, because here was a daughter who was trying to figure out how to love a difficult mother, or a mother who always had like all these balls juggling, and she felt she was one of the ball. And so I kind of like got it, because that's how I have been. I kind of embraced motherhood, embraced filmmaking, and I feel at home at both. Like so I think that's why I think my film journey is so linked to my role as a mother, Of course, I was very naive then. I used to say things like, I'm going to go make my first film. I'm going to come back and have another kid and, all of that. But obviously, when you have one kid and then you try to make a film, I don't think,
a film is a baby in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So you are anyway, every time, birthing a new child. And so, I think there was a sort of a naivety or a sort of lack of, I don't know, understanding of the rules of the game or anything that I think allowed me to just go and do it without really doing any pros and cons and stuff like that. And I'm glad I did that. And I'm glad I just went and had that baby at the time. And so whatever, like if I've lost something because I can't do something because of a baby, that's too bad, Surely I think if I'd become a filmmaker in my 20s, my journey would have been different. But I think this is different and special in its own way, and therefore
Absolutely.
I suppose makes me respond to material, makes me respond to things in a very, like maybe a different, unique way. Which then actually resonates with a lot of people, because a lot of people I realize are juggling and making sense of all of this anyway.
Anu, there's so many perspectives that you've shared with us, to a listener who's listening to this right now, a woman sitting maybe in her in her pregnancy, thinking of a wild dream that she wants to chase. There's some inspiration for her right there. And, we talk about the film industry and movies, and there's just so much stereotype that we hear of. There's so many cliches around it, and there's just so much gender disparity. And here you are giving us inspiration. You're telling us that you actually met people. You had meetings with a 6-month bump. And you ended up getting a movie after that. But is it always like that? Did you have any stereotypes that you had to face just because you're a woman behind the camera? Did you have any stereotypes that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I don't think, I think, there is an understanding of what kind of, or a perception of what kind of films, you might make because you're a woman. And if you're a woman, like the kind of, you will make more sensitive, gender-driven films. I'll tell you what it is. I think it has definitely changed a lot in the last 10 years. Initially, you would walk into a room and there would be a distance, between you and the people you're pitching to. Right. I mean, people would, essentially what it is in our industry is like, if you get some success, then people trust you a lot more, and it's that cycle, and that is genderless. So I mean, we have an issue of gender, as in we don't have enough female directors as there should be, and there are not enough female perspectives. But I think in the last 4 or 5 years it has completely changed. So I was naive in the beginning. I didn't know, right? So when you don't know, because I don't know, and I kind of think, of course, I came to work in the 90s, and there was a lot of gaslighting. There was all of that we faced. But I guess because I think I took those 3 years to study, and I was out of, sort of an industry, I did not, I suppose I'd forgotten, like what happens in a sort of a workplace discrimination. The one thing is, I have never acknowledged discrimination, right? So if you're going to tell me, oh, you're a woman, you should do this, I just move on. So I think it's the way you sort of deal with that as well. I mean, but people have also responded to my work. It's not like only women responded to the work. The first person who greenlit the film, they were men. And then the first film that London, Paris, New York, I went to Goldie Bell and, his sister Shrishti, who just liked the script. So they did not know me. They did not know me, it didn't matter whether I was woman or man or at that time. So they just liked the script and they backed me, and, a studio came on board. So I don't think any of these choices that happened or people gave me a job was because of my gender. But you can feel like a glass ceiling when you're operating, in the industry. It's like, I remember there was this script and we went and pitched to sort of male stars. And I could see that they were just not able to figure out, how to work with someone like me. Because there is a comfort in working with, someone who has a similar point of view, and that's filmmaking, right? You choose people with similar sort of backgrounds and outlooks. So then there is this woman. So you live in London and you've got a kid there, and you come here and you make this film, and you want to make a commercial film. So it's I think it's all of that. I think what it is that people like to put people in a box. Like if, and then try to make sense of it. So when you don't fit in any of those boxes, then you're like, so a person like this should be interested in a more, indie films. Like, yeah, great. Oh, but you want to make a commercial film and you want me to give you all this money to make that film? I don't know how to kind of, make sense of that. So I think all of this exists, and I think it exists in across industries. And I think that's what we're doing. And I think the more, we make films, the more our perspectives become mainstream, more our perspectives, stories become, commercially viable. I think all these things will change. And I see a huge change in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, I don't even most of my crew are women. My producers are, women. I mean, so what I'm saying is we are not just, we have we're not just change makers, but also we're like proper, stakeholders, commercial stakeholders. And I think that's what it is. And I think we are pushing for that change, and we're creating new ecosystems, and therefore which has its own, and all of that is happening. So yes, I mean, every time you do something, there are pushbacks from multiple sides, because you do take a stance, based on your worldview. But I think you just kind of go from one project to another, trying to better, what you set out to do. Yeah, and I feel like, every time I talk to women, or we hire women, or we have more women joining the workforce. I just feel like, I mean, for example, I'm writing something with a friend, with another writer. She's got 2 young daughters, and and she has to and she's doing a course as well, and she's only free in the mornings or in the night. And we make sure that she gets that opportunity to write, because she's a goddamn good writer. And so I think these kind of ecosystems are very difficult to be when you're in the traditional setup, where you're like, she the producer will say, oh, but I want you to come to office at whatever time. But I will, we are like perfectly okay. I mean, as long as you deliver. I mean, of course, you manage your life, and we'll figure out things around us, as long as you deliver what you set out to do and you're committed to that. So I think these kind of changes, these kind of like opening up, work cultures and stuff like that, all of it is happening. And yet the glass ceiling also exists. So I hope we are in that sort of transition phase. I mean, it's there. I mean, you think, oh my God, it's amazing. And suddenly one day you're like, oh, shit, something happens and you're like, oh, the glass ceiling is there. I mean,
it's there, right? I mean, a classic example that comes to my mind is the kind of misogyny we see in some of these Bollywood movies. These songs that we see, the objectification of women. All of that is also existing in one huge domain. And then there are movies like a Shakuntala Devi and many more that are depicting women in good light, in characters that are human, powerful, and also have a message that we are sharing. So you're absolutely right. You are a change maker, and I think cinema is a great way to influence changes in the society. Like I just shared with you, there's misogyny, and then there's something like this. So this is quite refreshing, the work that you've done with Shakuntala Devi. And there's this character that is a mother. She's also a genius in her own way. She's a mathematician. So there's so many stereotypes that I see there. There's a divorcee, which is a huge stereotype. We're talking about a single mom. We're talking about a woman who's successful and a woman who's talking maths. Yeah. So Anu, for me, you're like the ambassador for my show. There's just so many ways that this movie has broken.
Shakuntala Devi is. Shakuntala Devi, who was, Yeah.
So what was your, learning through this whole process while you were putting this film together around women and stereotypes? What's been your takeaway making this movie?
So I think what I, researching about Shakuntala Devi and, talking to her daughter for all these years, I think what really struck me was, there was this woman who never acknowledged what others thought of her, because, like nobody puts baby in the corner kind of a thing. It's like, she decides what to do. I mean, she decides to, kind of, she's in control of the events in her life, and she faces the good and the bad that comes out of it. Not everything you do is going to be successful, and not everything you're going to do is going to be liked by everyone, right? So there are consequences to all your actions. So I think that it requires a lot of courage to go and do what you feel like you need to do at this point in time. So for example, if she stood for elections and she lost it, but she moved on with it. She wrote a book on homosexuality, and she got a lot of acknowledgement for it, but they also questioned her. So then she made up a lie to support her work, which was very important, and then she faced the consequences for that. So the sort of support and all of that she got from the gay community for writing a book and championing their rights is one aspect. But equally, when she was repeatedly questioned, she just said she made up a story that her husband was gay. So there are consequences to that as well. So, she was, a real person who had the good and the bad and multiple facets, and she faced the consequences for all. And I think, to me, and to do it like day in and day out, for like, she was 83 when she died, and she lived, doing that till the end. So I think it's a great message. I mean, for me, it's like whatever you do, you don't know whether it's going to be the right thing or the wrong thing or the best thing. You do because you believe in it. And that's what you do. And the rest, you'll have to face the consequences. If what you've done is proven to be right and good, sure, great, acknowledge it and understand it. If it is bad, or if they're saying it's bad but you don't agree with it, then learn to ignore it. But if you think there is something in there for you to learn and move on, take it. So I think that sort of orientation that she had, where she sort of almost bulldozed her way through life, not being scared to do different things. I think to me that was like a huge, inspiration. And it was great, because I think one of the things though is, I think all our lives, we, even now, I have to say, I want to be liked. And women, especially women leaders, women, like corporate leaders, like we also, while we want to achieve, we also want to be liked. Yeah. And I think that is, and she didn't care about that.
Yeah, she didn't need a man, it's just such an important message that she sent out.
Because for her, because she had been, like what a male support in a, whatever traditional setup is, sort of financial security and all of that. She never needed that, because she was, she depended on herself, earned money for her family since she was very young. So I think, I think these are these multiple things. One is that I think to do things, have the courage to do things and have the courage to face the consequences. So like, not everything you do will be right. Not everything you do will be great. Not everything you do will be appreciated. And it's okay. But it's important to still keep doing. And I think to me, that's a great message. And I think, people chase likability. I think that's overrated. I think what you need to do is listen to your heart and, be true to that. So
such an important point.
That's also, I feel like a great, sort of learning from someone like Shakuntala Devi. Yeah,
absolutely. No need for validation. Validation is such an important thing for a woman, and it comes from the way we're conditioned, right, to please. And for this woman, she doesn't have the need to please anyone. But, I'm going to talk specifically about a few scenes in the movie where I felt like we're talking smashing patriarchy, we're talking moving beyond stereotypes. So, there are these scenes, one of them which really left an impact on me, and that was the moment I decided to reach out to you and talk to you for my show, is when she says that if she talks to her husband in the middle of this argument, and she tells her husband that if you were in my shoes, if you were this successful genius, the whole world would have told me as a wife, I need to travel with you and support you.
Yeah.
But why is it not just because I'm a woman, the same rules don't apply to me? And in my head, I was thinking that is so true. If it is a successful man, a woman is expected to tiptoe around him wherever he goes, And then there are other scenes in the movie where you see this whole guest house where she enters the first time, and there are a group of men all looking at her wondering what the hell is a woman doing here. And then she also has, she's basically expressing herself so openly. There is no gender norm in her head when she says, I want your baby, I don't need to marry you.
Yeah.
So there are these, really these stereotypes that she's broken. And I think there's a strong message for a lot of people, both men and women, that your talent has got nothing to do with your gender. Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. So now we're going to talk a little bit about how the audience has viewed this movie. What kind of responses have you got, Anu, especially from a gender lens? What are people saying?
So I obviously, it got a lot of audience love, right? A lot of people, both men and women have responded to the whole mother-daughter angle. The fact that, we are so much harsher on our mums, than we are on our fathers. And, a lot of women, who have written to me about how, they held it against their mothers when they were not there, when they came back from school, if they did not serve them food. And saying that, I'm, now when they have become, mothers themselves, they kind of realize that, they did not understand this whole thing that your mother is not just a mother, as she's also a woman. So I would say that messaging hit home really hard. Mm-hmm. And so this film kind of, gave me, and, everybody I seem to have known has seen this film. So, all my college mates, people I went to school with, my class teacher, my mom's friends, a lot of people of my mom's generation, the women who are, in their late 60s and 70s, a lot of them have responded to the film because I feel like perhaps, she belonged to their generation, and it was a lot of these women gave up on, their dreams or anything to become mothers and have just remained mothers. They have totally, at least our generation has, we're talking about these things. They have just had to become mothers, and the woman in them has remained unexplored. So there's a huge, like a really, huge sort of, on this, what should I say, like a support I got from a lot of, mothers, and a lot of, my friends would say, see, there's this message from my mom, and she loves it. Mothers who've seen this film multiple times. So all of that. So I think definitely, it made a huge impact. It had its own, share of sort of, what should I say, criticism. Especially some women from STEM thought that by talking about motherhood, we have diluted her genius. And, this is what we do every time we want to talk about a woman in science and maths and everything, we make it about, her being a woman. So literally, I think a bunch of people have felt that I have let them down by doing this, which is an interesting thought, because we feel so undervalued as professionals that, we feel like if we are talking about something else as women and professionals, we are bringing down sort of our sort of value, or, the fact is, why can't I just be a mathematician? Now you made me a mathematician and a mother.
Yeah, so, but you are both. You are both.
So, yeah, but they feel like that. So, that's what I'm saying, because I, as a working mother, saw this, because I feel like, for me, it's like I am both. And the fact is, if you're telling me that, as a mathematician, if I talk about motherhood, the fact that you are a mathematician becomes less, then that's problematic, because
absolutely,
so I don't agree with that. But there was a huge, but I'm happy to have this conversation, and I'm happy these discussions are happening, because I'm not going to say, but that's what a group of people feel. So which means that women are trying so hard to be taken seriously that when they are talking about something, they don't want, these things to distract from, what they're offering. So for example, and I'm coming to say, okay, what are your process like a filmmaker? And I start talking, and then suddenly you say, oh my God, so what do you, like, what does your family think of you or your motherhood? And you feel like, excuse me, I'm here talking as a director. Why are you talking about motherhood? So, because I think people, in their fields, because they're fighting so hard, they felt let down that by not giving enough importance to her contribution as a mathematician, and not making the film only about that, but just by bringing in motherhood, like the one opportunity we had, was lost to them. So there is, unfortunately or fortunately, I think we all respond to stories based on our life experiences.
Absolutely.
For me, the fact that, she was, like, of course she was a mathematician and she did all of that, but she struggled with being the mother that her daughter wanted her to be. And that was the biggest conflict in her life. And to me, that was a huge, that really spoke to me. So that obviously I, kind of took that, and I wanted to marry both. But so there is a huge, there is a section of people who feel like we always talk, a woman has to talk about women. We have to then talk about her feelings as a mother, or her maternity, or her motherhood. Like, therefore we bring down her contributions, in her professional life.
Yeah, that could also be because when we're depicting men, we're not talking about their other roles in their families. It's usually unheard of.
So that's why do we have to talk? But which I think is wrong, because we should talk, because in fact, for me, it's like that is wrong. Yeah. So that's, if we start talking men as humans and not just putting them on a pedestal, then actually we will have a better, if you make the man vulnerable, make the man, the fact that he is not just a, whatever, this great leader or a great mathematician or great cricketer, the fact that he is a husband, and he has, like, sometimes, delivers on that, sometimes doesn't deliver on that. Sometimes he's a good father, sometimes he's a bad father. So I think we need to make sure that stories don't just, they're not unidimensional, so that, people don't think that, oh, you can be an amazing, genius and life will be amazing. But no, it's not, because you can be a genius and you can be amazing, in your professional life. But personally, you could be struggling. And, and you've got to know that, you can't just put people on pedestal, because everybody has demons.
Absolutely.
And, we all have to learn to live with demons. And so I feel so I don't agree with that whole, argument at all. But there is a valid argument. And I have understood it exists because women are not valued enough for their professional contributions.
Absolutely.
Because it is so, it's so difficult for women to be taken seriously, in technology, in science, even like, politics.
Finance.
It's like women have to work, twice as hard to be taken seriously. So that's why it hurts that, you want this woman to be like professional and this mathematical whiz kid and whatever. And therefore you feel like, oh God, and again, she's a bad mom. And, so there is that sort of feeling that exists, which I think is unfair, but I understand, where that comes from. And I hope, so I think the change, I think the approach, or, the response to that is not that we should not tell these stories, but we should tell, more stories and multiple kinds of stories.
I think I really like that input, that when we're portraying men, it is also equally important to show the feminine side. I think masculine, feminine are two energies that all genders have. It's just that when we're talking about men, we're purely talking about the masculine energy and not showing the vulnerability, like you said.
Yeah.
And when we're looking at women characters, we need to have a fair balance there as well. And I'm completely with you, because success has so many more dimensions. It's just not in the capitalist sense of fame, wealth, and money. I could have all of that, but if my relationships are broken in some ways, and if I'm able to heal, mend, and move past them and create a beautiful bond, that's a 360-degree success, right? So I think that's equally important from my lens. I'm going to ask you an important question, Anu. You said that you could relate to this story in so many ways because you're also a mother, and you were also trying to get your talent and your dream out, it's not very easy to make a biopic. And the reason I say this is because I'm writing an anthology of 11 women change makers. And, to sort of live somebody's life and depict it is a lot of work. Yeah. How was it for you to manage your family, your child, and also getting this movie out? And you've done a fab job. It's undoubtedly, it's amazing what you've done. So what was your journey like in getting this out while you were raising your own baby?
It's not easy. I mean, there are good days and there are bad days. And I mean, for me, it was life imitating art because I was shooting in India and my husband sent me a message one day saying that I live in London, as you know, and that my daughter had she was upset about something. And you know how children are, that they don't, it's like, if you're around, they will just ignore you. But then if they need you and you're not around, then they really hold it against you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what it is. So I think she needed me for something and I was not there. And she was very angry and she says, one thing I want to know is when I grow up, I don't want to be like a mom. I will not take up a traveling job.
Oh my God, so you had like a mini version of the Shakuntala Devi and that comment happening in your life.
And the next day, and it's funny because, of course, I felt really bad, but I also felt, validated that I was talking about something important in this film because this is what it is. Because there are these things that, and it's okay, for me, like how do I turn that and how do I just not get guilty about it and drop everything and run back home? But for me, it is to say that, I am not here because, when you need me, but you can reach out to me like in this particular way, or, there is, my mom was around, she had her grandma, she had my husband, but she needed that connection from this person that, so she does. I mean, in a sense that we have that conversation and, sometimes, she's like, I'm so proud of you. And sometimes like, oh God, you're going to go off again, so that kind of a thing. But this is a conversation that has to happen constantly. And sometimes I feel really guilty. And sometimes I feel, but when I'm on the set, I am like the happiest. I can never not, be on a set and direct. So it is a fact that I will have to do both. Obviously, in 6 years' time, she'll be off to university and whatever. And I have only one child. Women have dreams and multiple children and have to kind of cope with. So the thing is, when my husband travels, she doesn't feel like that, you see, because that's the thing, we the conditioning is such that you're more forgiving towards the father than you are towards the mother. And that's what I, Anu, Shakuntala's Devi, Anu, and, when we talked through, she's like, she was a lot more, of course, she was angry with her dad because he didn't come and see her for 10 years. But in the long run, she was more forgiving towards her dad than she was towards her mom.
Why do you think that?
I think we are much harder on our moms. I think, the society is just much harder. Men get away. Like, for example, I remember this, I had a producer once tell me that, oh, you know what, like when you were going to go and meet a big time actor. And he said, just play down on your, like this sort of, I have a daughter and my motherhood and all that. Just be a lot more professional. I was like, okay, whatever. And then literally we're there in the actor's house and his young son is there throughout the meeting playing with us. And everybody is going, oh, because somehow his softness is celebrated, but my softness is seen as a weakness. But if we had done a male mathematician and we had shown his vulnerable side, everybody would have celebrated that. Bang, oh my God, what a nice father. Absolutely. But if you show a woman mathematician and show her motherhood side, everybody told me, yeah, man, but you didn't do justice to her career. So, we have, and this exists amongst feminists and amongst people you would think, get all of this. We have this conditioning from both ways. So
what a beautiful conversation this is. This is what you highlighted is bang on. When you are portraying a male character with great relationships, and has a vulnerability, it's celebrated. But when a woman's portrayal is done, it's considered a weakness. So, that is a very interesting point. And I'm just thinking there are so many working women who may not be geniuses the way Shakuntala Devi were.
Yeah.
Right. They could be people like you, like me, a lot of listeners listening to this show, but they are struggling. They're struggling between really fulfilling their responsibility as a mother and also, and they're struggling to actually prove to the society more to themselves, I feel. There's so much societal pressure that they have to deal with, which is external, that they've got to sort of deal with ensuring that they're delivering the work that they're supposed to with whatever talent they have and also delivering things at home. And then there's societal pressure. What is your message to them, Anu? How and what is it that they should do if they have a dream in their heart? If they have this fire, what should they do?
I think it's very important for women to, have a sense of purpose beyond the family. And, if you have for different people, like if you feel like you need to do something, you should do something. So for example, there are people who absolutely are very happy supporting the family and being that sort of person who runs the house and is willing to, is there to support the family, support the dreams of the spouse, making sure the children are, kind of getting the support they need for their work. So I think, they're able to kind of find that sort of validation, or I think that's a wrong word, but sort of feeling complete in that. And, that is perfectly okay. And we have to legitimize that.
Absolutely. Right? That's a conversation we can have another day on why the homemaking job is so undervalued.
And therefore, but if you feel like, I wish I had, I want to do something. So I have a friend who wants to study because, she wants to do her daughter's same age, my daughter's best friend. And she, like she says, I want to study science and she wants to, do a degree or I want a new vocation. And I'm like, you have to, because, otherwise she says, because otherwise, I have 3 children and my day will just fly. And then suddenly in 10 years, I'm going to feel like, it's all just gone away. But I want a vocation that I want to hold on to. So I will say, carve out that space for yourself. Carve out, what is it that, you wanted? It's not easy, but I feel like I think we have to push the society that this pressure is equal on both men and women.
Exactly.
And that's all it is. I don't think, we need to carry the burden of, the children all the time, because our dreams are as valid as men's dream. And now we should be, equal participants in, whatever is happening around us. So I think we need to push. We need to kind of, don't feel guilty. This guilt is like something that so don't feel guilty about, wanting to do something, having that extra dream, or having, wanting to fulfill something, which is beyond your family. So I think, and I every time I would say that, and if you don't have any of this, like if you don't want to get married, you don't want to have children, and you want to just follow your dream, that also should be okay. So I think we have to be a lot more, the thing is that I think everybody has fixed narratives and we are not able to see beyond that. And I think everybody has their own narrative. And I think the ability for multiple narratives to exist. So I don't think it's not just men who are hard on, women. Like a lot of times women are hard on other women and not able to understand that you might want to, not have children, or the fact that, you might not want to have a career and just want to have children. And a lot of us want everything. And that's okay too. So I think this sort of coexistence is important. And I think what the answer, if you see what is common across, is guilt. Because that's what we are conditioned to feel guilty. You don't want to have children? Man, something must be wrong with you. Feel guilty. You want to leave your children and chase your dreams? Oh my God, you have to feel guilty. So I think, or you don't, or on the case, oh my God, you mean to say you don't want to have any career? All you want to be is a mother? Then you feel guilty because you're nobody. So, I think this theme of guilt, is kind of, and I think for men, it doesn't exist. But of course, I suppose, if you're going to talk masculinity and you come from that side and that conditioning, then what about a man who doesn't want to work, or they have the pressure of, supporting
providing,
the family.
If you're not able to provide.
Providing, if they're not providers, then, that pressure that comes on them. So I think there is, of course, that whole angle also we need to do. But I think if you're just talking about, from the women's perspective, how can we do that? I think it's constantly, destigmatizing any sort of choices and allowing women to be okay with the choice they make.
Yeah.
And I think, and then the more we support each other for the choices we make, even if it's different from what we would have done, I think that is very, very important for, I think that's how we can all sort of support each other. And I think, and my message would be that first step, don't be guilty. Figure out, what is it you want and find support from, around you.
Mm-hmm. What a beautiful conversation we've had, Anu. And, this is something that I always keep talking about, that women can be equal outside in the society, or they can fulfill whatever they want to fulfill with their aspirations if men participate equally. We're trying to chase equality here without really involving men. And I think some of the men would be really happy if a lot of women shared the load with them. They're sort of feeling the burden themselves. And I think this conversation needs to happen for sure, because clearly there are a lot of men that would want to participate. And I think the movie Shakuntala Devi also portrayed that with the male characters at some point in time. So we need to involve more men, and patriarchy is not just about men being the torchbearers. Patriarchy could also have a lot of women. I have seen a lot of patriarchal women myself, and a lot of feminist men. So I think it is about being equal and inclusive with people around us that want to pursue their dreams. Anu, I've had a great time having this conversation. I'm sure we can go on and on talking about this. But for sure, we're going to have more conversations on Beyond Cliche with people that have moved beyond cliche and broken stereotypes. With us, we had Anu, the filmmaker. I'm not going to call her a woman filmmaker. We're going to call her a filmmaker because that's what she is. And she's a brilliant filmmaker. We've seen that with Shakuntala Devi. Anu, if people want to reach out to you, can you share your social media handles? Where do we find you?
I think on Instagram, it's Director Menon.
Okay.
And I think on Twitter, it's Anu Menon 1805.
Okay. All right. So you can
I think if they do Director Menon or Anu Menon, they should find me. And it says that I'm a writer-director.
Yeah, and now if you Google Director Anu Menon, I'm sure you're going to find a lot of interviews and a lot of information for the beautiful movie that she's made. Thank you for joining us on this show, and may you go out there, smash patriarchy, and create more beautiful examples of how holistically successful human beings need to be, and we break more gender stereotypes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And on this show, we've spoken about a movie, Shakuntala Devi. Please go watch the movie if you haven't already. It's available on Amazon Prime. Also, Anu's done some amazing work. Please do look up her work. And let's start a discussion on how women can pursue their dreams, their ambitions, if they get enough support from people around them. If you need to reach out to me, please go to Instagram at almasvirani_1111. Or you can also find me on Twitter at almasvirani11. And please don't forget to sign my petition, change.org/PapaPampers2. For all the papas that pamper their children, please do sign it. For all the mothers that would like their papas, their husbands to also change diapers, please go ahead and sign the petition. I'm going to see you again next Thursday with a brand new episode on Beyond Cliche. Till then, stay safe, stay happy, take care, bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed that show. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Intel. It's been a great week on the network this week. If you haven't been paying attention, please do listen to some of the shows. We had Chetan Bhagat. This was the first returning guest on Cyrus Says. Do check that out. Great episode. We had Palak Zatakia on Advertising is Dead. Really interesting conversation was had with Varun. We had another crossover on the habit codes. Zarina Poonawala showed up over there to have a discussion with Ashton about anxiety and pressure. Begin the Journey with Ashi Vidyarthi continues to kill it. Please definitely do check it out. An old friend, Vijay Koshi, was on Storytellers and Storysellers. Do check that out as well. And I'd like to mention one thing. If you're a Tamil speaker, you should definitely check out our podcast, Kadai Podcast Punyan Selvan. Kavita Jiva has done a fantastic job to finish up her first story. It is the last episode which just came out last Monday. Do check it out if you speak Tamil. It is an incredible achievement. Please do check that out. And with that, hope to see you again next week.
Advertising is dead. Yep, you heard me right. Advertising is dead. We're all in the content business now. Let's not call it news, TV, radio, etc., etc. It's all content, and we're in the middle of this weirdly exciting phase where all the borders and lines that have been drawn over decades has been swept away by this lovely thing called the internet. We're a show where we don't dwell on just the stuff that is now, but rather the wider stuff about advertising, media, content, and the whole goddamn circus surrounding it. Tune in every Tuesday for our weekly unboxing of the mystery box we used to call advertising. I'm Varun Dugirala, co-founder and content chief at The Glitch, and this is my new podcast, Advertising is Dead.